So 2 terms times 2 terms here, 3x squared, or sorry, 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 3 is plus 9x, so that's the first half. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x or minus 5x. Negative 5 times 3 is minus 15. So in the first step of multiplication, when we're doing double distribution, how many terms do we end up if we're multiplying 2 terms times 2 terms? We end up with 4 terms, right? And then what do we do after that? We combine them and make them into kind of 3 terms, right? Because 3x squared stays. Negative 15 stays back here. But I need to morph these two into plus 4x. Okay? So, what is factoring again? What's factoring the opposite of? Factoring is the opposite of what? What? Multiplying. Specifically distribution, right? Factoring is dividing something out, whereas distribution is multiplying something in. So we've been working, you guys didn't really know it, but we've been working on undoing double distribution. We worked on already the first step of undoing double distribution when we looked at problems like this. So look at the middle line here. How many terms do we have? 4 terms. How do you factor with 4 terms? Split them into 2. What was that called? Grouping, right? So to go from this middle line right here up to my top line right here, all I have to do is group, right? That's what we were doing last class. We took 4 terms, split them up 2 and 2, and then did 3 GCFs and got into 2 sets of parentheses, right? Today, the only thing that we're learning new is this right here. We're focused on that middle term. So today we're going to be given problems that have 3 terms. So we're going to be given problems like this. And we have to know how to uncombine our like terms. That is our focus today. And we have to pick a specific pair to uncombine our like terms with. Okay? Alright, so this is called the AC method. So let's look here. The reason it is called the AC method is because we always start by multiply the A and C. Okay, we always start by multiplying the A and C. That's going to help us start to find our factors that we need to break that middle term apart with. So all we're doing today is trying to break 3 terms into 4 terms so that we can group. That's the only thing we're doing today. Break 3 terms into 4 terms so that we can group. So are you guys familiar with the standard form of a quadratic? I think we talked about it a little bit. It is ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, that's the standard form of a quadratic. And the reason I show you this is so that we are familiar with what a and c are. A is always the piece with the square term. C is always the number all by itself. B is always just the x term. Generally, if it's in standard form, they'll be in order like this, A, B, C. Okay? So that being said, let's get rid of that. Pull this back over. I need to multiply A times C. So what is my A term here? 3x squared. And what is my C term here?
15.
Negative 15. So AC is what? Negative. 3 times 15 is 45, and the x squared comes along. So AC is negative 45x squared. That helps me get a frame for where I need to move next. Because my factors, when I break my 3 terms into 4 terms, my factors always have to multiply to this AC. That's what's going to help me with grouping. Because remember, with grouping, we're looking for a greatest common factor. So we need to somehow incorporate our A term and C term into those factors so that we'll be able to group. Okay? Nez, did you have a question?
I was just wondering if there'll always be like the first and last 2 numbers.
Not always, because they won't always be in order. Most of the time, yeah, but occasionally you get a problem that's not in order. So it's the square term and the number. All right, so now I need factors of negative 45. So let's start here. So if it's a negative, remember that's going to be 1 positive, 1 negative. So I'll start with negative 1x and 45x, and then flip it, 1x and negative 45x. All right, what's next? Does 2 go into 45? No, does 3 go into 45?
Yes.
3 and 15. So negative 3x and 15x. Then flip it, 3x and negative 15x.
Well, are we trying to get 4?
Right now I'm just trying to get factors.
Oh.
Yes, in goal we're trying to get 4. Okay, but we're going to take it slow here. All right, does 4 go into 45? No. Does 5 go into 45? Yes, 5 and 9. So negative 5x and 9x. 5x and negative 9x. Okay, does 6 go into 45? No. Does 7 go in? No. Does 8 go in? No, and we're back around to 9. So I've found all my factors. Yeah, Andrew?
I was just wondering, what would you do with like the 4x? Like,
We're getting there. Okay? All right, so let's scroll back up here. And how did I go? So remember, I'm going backwards, so I'm going bottom up now. So how did I go from the bottom line to the middle line? That was going from the middle line to the bottom line. How would I then go in reverse and go from the middle line to the, from the bottom line to the middle line? What do I do to 4x? These two stay the same. These two stay the same. What happens to 4x? It's broken into two terms that equal 4x, right? 9x minus 5x equals 4x. So I'm trying to break my middle term apart into two factors. So that being said, these are the now possible factors. So after I do AC, I find all the possible factors, but I need the specific set of factors that will replace 4x. So if they're going to replace 4x, they need to add up to 4x. So if I replaced 4x with negative 1x plus 45x, would that be the same? No, because that's 44x. This is negative 44x. This is 12x. This is negative 12x. What pair equals 4x? Negative 5x and 9x. So this is the pair that I want to break this into. Okay? So my 3x squared is going to come down. My minus 15 is going to come down. The only thing that's different is I'm breaking this 4x into the two terms that I just found. So 4x is now going to be, negative 5x would be minus 5x, and positive 9x would be plus 9x. Now how many terms do we have? 4 terms. What do you do with 4 terms? You group. So do it. Now that I have 4 terms, I group. So I group first 2, last 2. This is what we did last class. Add up 3x squared and negative 5x. I can bring out an x. So none of the rest of this should be new. The only thing we're doing new is breaking that middle term apart, which we already did. So then I'm left 3x squared divided by 3x is 3x. Negative 5x divided by x is negative 5. Then out of the last 2, I can bring out a 3, so plus 3. And then divide a 3 out of both of those. 9x divided by 3 is 3x. Negative 15 divided by 3 is minus 5. So at this point, my parentheses should match, right? 100%, they should match. And they do. So I factor that 3x minus 5 out. So if I factor it out of both of these terms, I'm left with x plus 3. You guys ready?
Yep.
Ready for your mind to be blown? Ready for your mind to be blown? Look back up at the review problem.
What?
We just undid it.
It's basically like checking your answer.
Okay, there are some instances where the two binomials are better. There are some instances where the trinomial all multiplied together is better. So yes, it is a way to check your answer. If you wanted to check your answer, you could multiply those two binomials back
I
together.
see it.
So hold on. So this problem right here
Alright.
was the answer we got up here. And we got this answer from multiplying these two together. So we multiplied these two together and got this. So if we take this and factor it, we got back to the two binomials.
Okay.
So let's fill in our notes just really quick, because I know some people really like having these notes, so they're step by step. So we multiply a and c. We find the factors, so what multiplies to that, that's finding the factors. And remember, we need the specific factors that add up to the B value, that middle value. After we find those two factors, then we're just breaking the middle apart. So rewrite the given trinomial, break the middle, which is the same as the B, term into the two factors. After you break that middle term apart, that gives you 4 terms. And then what do we do with 4 terms? Group. Factor by grouping. If I could spell grouping. I spelled gooping. Grouping. There we go. Okay. Huh? Oh, undoing distribution. Sorry, I skipped that one. Okay. All right. So let's look at a problem kind of all together here. Let's just look at example 2. Okay. Let's work all the way through it together, and then I'll have you guys do a couple try these. Okay. How we doing? We're doing fine on time. Okay, so I need factors, right? My goal is, when I see 3 terms, my goal is to make it 4 terms. So I need factors of AC. Remember, I need to take into consideration the first and last term so that I can group properly. So what is AC here? 3v squared is A, and 3 is C, so what is AC?
Negative 10.
9v squared. That's B.
Where'd you get 9?
So I take A times C, and I would get 9v squared. So I want the factors of 9v squared. So let's do that. So since it's positive, I can do 2 positive or 2 negative. So I have 1v and 9v, negative 1v and negative 9v. How else could I get 9?
Negative 3 and 3.
Okay, so 3v and 3v, or negative 3v and negative 3v. So those are all my factors. Remember, my goal is to break that middle term apart. So I want to replace this middle term with 2 factors that equal it. So how could I get negative 10v?
Negative 5 and 2.
No, because I don't want to multiply. I'm looking for. These are my possible factors, right? I've taken AC into consideration. These are my possible factors to pick from. Negative 9 and negative 1, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to pick negative 9 and negative 1 because those are the 2 that add to negative 10. So I replace negative 10v with negative 1v minus 9v. Bring the first and last terms down, so 3v squared and plus 3. Now I have 4 terms, so I group. So I group first 2. Out of those 2, I can bring out a v. So none of this stuff should be new. None of this now. 3v squared divided by v is 3v. Negative 1v divided by v is just minus 1. Group the last 2. In order to make my parentheses the same, I want my first piece to be 3v. So what would I have to take out of negative 9v to make it positive 3v? Negative 3, right? So I'm going to take my negative out with it this time. So I'm going to make my GCF out of the last 2 negative 3. And let's hope it works. Negative 9v divided by negative 3v is positive 3v. And 3 divided by negative 3 is negative 1. So do your parentheses match?
Yep.
Awesome. We've done something right. So 3v minus 1 comes out. Factor it out, and I'm left with v minus 3. Okay, so that's a problem more holistically. And you can see, guys, if we would have learned this without learning anything else, we'd be spinning in circles right now, right? Yeah. But we learned little piece by little piece by little piece. First we learned GCF, then we learned grouping. So that got you hopefully pretty good at all of this blue stuff right here. That's all just grouping. Right? The only part we learned today was how to find the specific factors that we needed to break it apart, which we worked on in warm-up, and hopefully now this isn't too bad. Okay? So let me give you a couple problems to do here so that you can see how well you can do it independently. Let's do... You really want to do C?
No.
Let's do A and B. Let's focus on A and B today. We'll get into problems where you have to factor out a GCF first. Those are like C and D. But because of the shortened day today, let's just focus on A and B, okay? So A and B together with your partners. Go ahead. I'll just record a couple seconds right here. Sorry I forgot to record, but here are the answers for A and B.